I'm Piers Linney, former Dragon on Dragon's Den. People tend to know me for that, that's what I'm best known for. But I've got a history where I grew up in a small mill town in Lancashire, fascinated by the Industrial Revolution, the entrepreneurs of the age, and I wanted to be in business. And I started my first business when I was 13 by disintermediating the local newsagents and starting a paper round and buying them wholesale myself. But I failed my 11 plus, went to the local secondary modern school. I worked hard there. I went to college in Burnley in Lancashire as well. I got into Manchester University. I did a degree in law and accounting, and I managed to then become a lawyer in the city. Everybody told me that I couldn't, given the school I went to, my background, and also my heritage as well. It wasn't particularly a diverse sector in those days. And I went on to become a lawyer, and I qualified in venture capital and corporate finance. I then went on to join Credit Suisse First Boston. So I became an investment banker in the city, specialising in mergers and acquisitions. And I learned my financial skills there, building on my accounting degree. And after that, I went into business. And I've never worked for anybody since, really, after those 3 years working in the city. I started off in the dot-coms. I went into sort of music and dance music. I then went back into finance, doing structured debt and equity into small cap companies. I became a partner in a hedge fund, but all the time I was investing in businesses, starting businesses, acquiring businesses. Some became quite big. One got to about 45 million in revenue, and I stepped in with my business partner, my co-founder and co-owner, and became an operator. And from that point on, really, I've been in technology, some media, telecommunications, and the convergence of those things. And more recently, I focused really on artificial intelligence. And I started a company called Implement AI with another co-founder. And we're building a business to help SMEs understand and embrace and implement AI. And also I've advised lots of large companies. I advised Sky on diversity and inclusion. I've advised very large automotive manufacturers on future strategy. I was on the board of the government bank during COVID when we deployed 90 billion into the market to support UK SMEs. So I've got a broad range of professional experience as well as my media experience as well. So I've been working with champions and the champions family, both in terms of the business family and the family itself, for probably 7 years now. And we've built a business together, really, which has been my speaking profile and my keynotes. And that's gone really, really well. I've enjoyed working with everybody. But the champions business has expanded with the ambition of the family. And I'm really excited to be partnering with them on bringing artificial intelligence, my experience in my business and Implement AI into the fold. So we're going to be bringing together the strategy to help companies grow, to expand, to understand how they extract the most out of their business. And within that, we're going to add in that growth strategy planning, add in artificial intelligence so that you can grow a business, but at the same time, you're not growing your cost base. You're augmenting your workforce with artificial intelligence. So you're growing the top line, but not the cost. So it's more profit, it's more margin, it's more wealth creation. So I'm really excited to be starting this partnership. So I've held many roles as a trustee and non-exec director. For example, I was a trustee of Nesta, the UK's largest innovation foundation with a £600 million endowment. I was on the board of British Business Bank during COVID, so bounce back loans, C-bills. We deployed 90 billion into the market. Large automotive manufacturers. I advised Sky on diversity and inclusion. So what I learned from these really, and the reason that I do them and often I'm invited, is to bring about kind of diversity. And I don't mean just diversity in terms of my heritage, but diversity of thought. And I learn from these, I get to work with fantastic people, experts in sectors. And the reason I do it is because I learn as well. I get as much from it as I contribute. I'm looking forward to doing more of them. So Dragon's Den captures that moment. It's quite hard to do business on TV, but that moment where they put their dreams or aspirations on the table, and the panel, the dragons, give them an answer. Are we in or are we out? And that can be quite brutal, but what you're really investing in, especially in very early stage companies where it's still very much an idea, there isn't much of a business yet, is you're investing in the individuals. Can you work with them? Can they put up with the pain and the anguish and the sacrifice you have to deal with when you're building a business? And can they pivot the business? Because often businesses, the one they end up selling, hopefully, or building over time, isn't the one they started with. So you're really looking at the individual. And I invested in probably the most successful business on Dragon's Den. The exit number's not public, but it was a big one. And I took 4%, 5% for £100,000. The biggest valuation on Dragon's Den for many, many years. It was in technology, it was in content for young people. And there I saw, fantastic founders. They had a VC term sheet, but they knew their stuff. They knew the technology, they understood the psychology of children. They had fantastic creative input and output as well. So it was the people, but also in some cases you can see that they absolutely know what they're doing, and that can make a difference between success and failure. So what people get confused about in Dragon's Den quite often is that you have the handshake, you've got the pile of cash on the table, and is that it? And that's not the case. What you see on TV is a handshake. There's an agreement to look at doing a deal. What you then go and do, it's like an angel investment. What you then go and do is due diligence. You might look at the financials. You have documentation, contracts, shareholder agreements, new constitutions to put in place. And often the deal doesn't happen. Sometimes because they're enjoying the PR, don't need your money anymore. And sometimes because you found something that wasn't quite what you thought it was. So I probably did 9 handshakes in the den. I think 7 deals happened. I think 5 of them I kind of got my money back. 1 didn't work out, and 1 kind of returned the fund, did extremely well, and was worth millions of pounds. But there's a process you go through. Now, you as a dragon, you want to do the deal. You've done the handshake. You're committed, but often it doesn't always work out. So one of the reasons that I ended up on TV is that I represent diversity, and I wanted to make sure that I was, I could be seen, I was visible. I advise Sky, I'm a member of its Diversity Advisory Council. It's a very large company, over 30,000 employees. But I strongly believe, and I'm a really big champion of diversity and inclusion. Just to be clear, diversity is being asked to the party, getting into an organisation. Inclusion is that feeling of belonging. It's what I call being asked to dance. And essentially, the top of society, being in politics, being in business, being in finance, being in education, doesn't look like the bottom. It's quite different. And we need to make sure that we even it up, we level up, that opportunity and ambition is connected with the capital and the networks, and that social capital as well as financial capital that people need, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurs that come from diverse backgrounds, they struggle. I did a lot of research at British Business Bank called the Loan Together report, that it showed that diverse entrepreneurs, they put more money into their businesses and more time, they're better educated, but their outcomes are worse. And why is that? That's because they don't have that social capital. The networks often, people take for granted that you grew up with, the postcode you live in, what your parents did, how much money have you got. So it's really important to extract the most value from our nation so that all people with opportunity and ambition are connected so they can actually create wealth for themselves and the country. So I try really hard to use my profile and my platform to champion diversity and inclusion and to be visible. So one of the reasons that I agreed to do Dragon's Den, I was away with Sir Richard Branson at his private game reserve in South Africa, Ulusaba, and the producers were chasing me saying, do you want to do Dragon's Den or not? We need to know. I had a conversation with Sir Richard at a table over a beer, looking at Impala being chased by lions, saying, do you think I should do it? And he said, look, you'd be good at it. There aren't many people like you on TV, you should do it. And I said, okay. And as I walked away, he told me there and then to ring the producer back, which I did, and say I'm in. That's why I ended up on Dragon's Den. Slight aside. But the important thing is to be visible. If people don't see themselves in the roles that they aspire to, they're less likely to think about doing something else, and that should not be the case. So I will always do my best to be visible, and I encourage other people, which you may not have the confidence sometimes. You might be a woman, you might be someone who's diverse in all of its forms, be it gender, be it your sort of sexuality, be it your neurodiversities. Make yourself visible and show other people who are just like you that they can do exactly what you've done. So one of the most important aspects of diversity and inclusion is this concept of belonging. You hear quite a lot of jargon sometimes in DE&I, and belonging really is about, you may bring people into your organisation, that I call it, they've been asked to the party. You want to make sure they're asked to dance. People feel as though they belong there, that they have a place there, and that's when you find that you build happier organisations, more profitable organisations with people that stay. You often find that people with, say, Afro-Caribbean heritage, for example, in periods of difficulty and recession, is that there's a ceiling, that you don't get that social mobility, that progression you might expect. And it's really important you look at your organisation and make sure that all that human bias, insofar as you can, is taken out of the equation, so that people are promoted and they travel up through the business, based on their ability and their talent, not on who they are or where they came from. I spent my whole career working in technology, from enterprise technology. I was a pioneer in cloud technology. I won the Microsoft Cloud Hosting Part of the Year in 2010 and had lunch with the CEO out in the US. But technology is about to completely change our world. And that's your world as an individual, that's your business, your organization, and also society and nation states. And that's due to the onset, the evolution, development, the arrival of usable artificial intelligence. We've seen, 60 years of research, 20 years of large organizations trying to build algorithms, but in the last 2 years, you've seen generative AI be made available to all of us. And if you're not using it yourself, you should be, to augment yourself. And you're going to see that knowledge work, cognitive labor as we call it, is going to be replaced over time by artificial intelligence. And eventually you'll see embodied AI, so robots that's going to be designed by AI, will start to sort of disrupt even physical human labor. And maybe in the future, people with fine motor skills, stonemasons or a hairdresser or masseuse, you may find that we revalue those skill sets, and they are the people that are really paid well. Because if you're a hedge fund manager or an accountant or a lawyer or even a surgeon, that cognitive AI or robots can do that job just as well as us. So the world's about to change. It's a huge opportunity, and the key is to start to implement AI. That's what my new business does. That's what it's called, Implement AI. And you need to start implementing AI before your competition does. We're about to enter a period of exponential growth, exponential change. And let me just advise you that in an exponential world, doing nothing, sitting on your hands and getting left behind is a bad plan.